it says in Malay is that the Tamil school called SRJK Tamil Jugra, Jugra is the name of the school, the place, Terima cabin, that means receives a cabin. You know those containers, those 20-footers? Well, that's a classroom. Right? And you see the container being lowered into position. Okay. And there you have the classrooms. Right? The Tamil school system in the country today is just groveling at the basics. This is in spite of the fact that Indians in the country are a significant minority, coming close to 2 million in numbers. This is another school, and this is in a shop house. That's it. Just 2 floors, and that's a school. Right? Now, this is the level at which the Tamil schools are operating, at the very basic level. All basic necessities not there. Where there's a school building, there's no field. Where there's a field, there's no canteen. Where there's a canteen, there's no toilets. And this is the Malaysia that you come to through KLIA, through to see the Twin Towers there. This is that same Malaysia. This is what you don't see. This is what really is happening on the ground. On the other hand, compare the billions that's being spent on education. The billions. Even a tiny fraction of that does not come to the Indian community, to the Tamil schools. These are just reports, which talks about the Malay school system, which is focused on excellence. And the Tamil school systems are just groveling at the basics. And this is equal rights for us. Add to that all the other inequalities. Primary school was there. Then you have at secondary school, you have special schools. They call it Maktab, Rendah, Science, Malaysia, MRSS. These are special schools for the best who come out from the primary schools. Right? That's entirely not for Indians. Completely. Okay? There are 42 such schools. And there are over 5, if I'm not mistaken, 5,000 intake per year. Okay? Indians totally excluded. That's secondary schools. Pre-university, there are two exams. What used to be called the HSC, now called the STPM, which is a tough exam. And the matriculation exam, which is a lot less tough. And I don't have to say who has to sit for the tough exams. There's the largest university in the country. They call it UITM. Has an enrollment of over 200,000 students. Entirely for the majority community. Zero participation for the Indians. Right? And so on and so on. I can enumerate. There's plenty of instances. This Mara education system is a complete system. It goes from secondary schools all the way through vocational training, through middle level training, through university degrees, and now they're working on research students, right? And it's entirely for the majority community. Can you think of another country in this world where you have a system where the resources are entirely garnered for the majority community? We had apartheid in South Africa, but that was for the minority community. But think of another country. Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier. That was on education, not a very pretty picture. On religion, right? See what the Constitution says. Right to profess and practice a religion of choice of the citizens. Okay? But we have where significantly, this occurs where there is interface between a Hindu and a Muslim, right? Where they get married, for instance, or where there's some similar interface. Okay, there are many situations where, okay, in this case, it isn't even that. This Miss Bangarma, this was reported last year in the press. Now she was abandoned with siblings when she was young. You know, again, arising out of poverty. A lot of these situations have a lot to do with the condition of poverty, right? She was abandoned, and she was put into a welfare home, and she was forced into, she had to sign some documents when she was young. She doesn't know anything, right? But she subsequently came out, got married, lives and practices as a Hindu, but she is not able to register a marriage because her husband has to convert to become a Muslim for her to marry him. Otherwise, it is not a legal marriage. And then their children then, in turn, begin to face difficulties. Because, you know, there are several cases where clearly the children that convert to Islam get all the benefits, and the children that don't convert to Islam get none of the benefits. They don't have a birth certificate, they don't have identity cards, they cannot do anything in the country, they cannot go to school, they cannot avail of any, you know, even a license to drive a car, they cannot open a bank account, they cannot do anything, they're just non-entity, they're stateless. Right? And there is a pattern, you know, I mean, every week, you know, new cases are coming up. There is a pattern about this whole thing, such that we cannot pass them off as just, you know, an aberration. This is systematic, and this is the point that we would like for all of you to realize, that it is not a singular aberration. In this case, very clearly, right, this child, I mean, now she's no more a child, was converted, possibly. Yeah, that's what I mentioned. Yeah, and that's the family now. That's Bangarama, that's a husband, and those are 2 children. And if I'm not mistaken, they are holding their birth certificates. Now, these children have got birth certificates, but that's a problem with their birth certificates. It doesn't identify their father as their father in that birth certificate. So they go without a father in their birth certificate. And you know, we get reports from children who have to go to school like this. They are ridiculed by their teachers, by their schoolmates, saying you don't have a father. And then here, Shamala, Hindu mother, whose husband converted to Islam after 4 years of marriage. Again, they had 2 children from the marriage, and the husband converted them to Islam without knowledge of Shamala. Shamala challenged it in court, but the civil high court said they have no jurisdiction in this area because the children are already Muslim. Only the Sharia court can judge on this. But Sharia court is for Muslims, and Shamala is a non-Muslim. So where does that leave her? Nowhere. So in this case, Shamala was of, you know, such circumstance that she could leave the country. She left the country with her children. She was thrown out of her country. But in any case, how many people can leave the country and live the people that they want to be? Many of them are stuck, and many of them are stateless in their own country of birth, in their own country. Murthy, the famous mountain climber, climbed Mount Everest, and when he died, apparently he had converted without knowledge of anybody, and it was a contentious issue. The family was challenging the Islamic authorities, you know, claim that he was a Muslim, and before they could settle the claim, the Islamic authorities buried him as a Muslim. This is a famous case. Now, this was the case that triggered the formation of Hindraf in 2005, and it was from there Hindraf built up and, you know, and gained the momentum that we saw, you know, erupt at the end of 2007, which has brought me in to do what I'm doing right now, along, you know, with my friends here. So, what we have, if